Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
And you have found us, America's family history show, Extreme Genes, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment is brought to you by Legacy Tree Genealogist, LegacyTree.com. Nice to have you along this week. And if you're new to family history, you're going to love the guest that we've got coming up a little bit later on today. We're talking about poor people. And who doesn't descend from poor people, right? We all descend from kings. We all descend from paupers. But the poor folks, they left a lot of records for various reasons, and we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. First of all, we're going to talk to Christy Fillerup. She's a researcher with Legacy Tree, and she's going to talk about some of the records available through a thing called the Parish Chest, coming up in about 10 minutes or so. And then later on the show, a genealogist from the New England Historic Genealogical Society, Jean Belmonte, is going to be on, and she's going to continue with more records you might find on paupers over in the UK as well as in the United States, and how some of those traditions carried over here. So that's all coming up later on in the show. Right now, it is time to head out to Boston and talk to David Allen Lambert. He is the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. David, how are you? How was your trip to Michigan and the National Genealogical Society conference?
It was great. I got to meet a lot of our listeners, including Kristen Krieg from Michigan, who listens to the show all the time. She made a point of coming over after my book signing. My Massachusetts book is done and is available, so if anybody has any Massachusetts ancestors, NGS has that available. It went really great. So many people loved the show, and it was great to meet them. In fact, one actually came over and started singing the theme song, gave me a hug.
I love that.
And you know something? I just want to say your topic today hits home because I have poor people in my family tree. In fact, my grandfather would always say that he went over the hill to the poorhouse to get a bride. It's because my grandmother's name was Lillian May Poor.
That's right. And I seem to recall that somehow one of your ancestors' records got mixed up. They thought that the person was poor as opposed to the name being poor.
Yeah, I found a nice Revolutionary War diary that way.
Wow. All right, let's get going with our Family Histoire news. Where do we start today, my friend?
Well, the story that I am going to tell you about first deals with a former slave born in Africa. In fact, it was a slave that was interviewed in the 1930s. Cudjo Lewis was 19 when he arrived on the Clotilda in Alabama in 1860 on the last known slave vessel to bring slaves to the United States. And he was still living when he was interviewed in the 1930s. He must have been in his 90s by then.
Yes, I think so. And the interview is actually on history. We've linked to it at extremegenes.com, so that's a good one to check out. Very interesting material.
It really is, and it's a shame nowadays we'd probably do the DNA. And now there's a little controversy with DNA in the news lately between genealogists on whether or not they want to share on things like GEDmatch.
Yeah, this is interesting because they broke the case of the Golden State Killer recently by going to GEDmatch and other sites and comparing DNA they got from a suspect and actually identifying who this person was. And so now everybody's going, oh, my goodness, the privacy in my DNA is being used for other. But, you know, the fact is it's not just my DNA or your DNA. It's DNA we share with other people within our families.
It really is. And it's not just DNA. Obituaries can catch criminals, too. Did you hear the story about the person whose mother's obituary had the alias? So they were able to track down a person who's been on the run for 37 years.
Yes, absolutely. And then they actually did have to test him to make sure that he was the same guy. But when you see the pictures, you go, yep, that would be the guy from the early 1980s that disappeared from jail. That was a nice find. Thanks, Mom.
Exactly. Hey, listen, by the way, I was thinking about NGS. There was one thing I forgot to mention to our listeners. Now there is actually a virtual genealogical society. In fact, 500 people signed up for it at the NGS conference, and they were running a special for $10. I think it's now $20, but it's going to be virtual meetings and content. It should be an interesting concept.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Oh, by the way, the ongoing saga of Douglas A. Lambert, my World War II distant cousin who I got the trunk and the Purple Heart, I decided to go to a local Army-Navy store that's going out of business, and I had them make dog tags on an old 1941 dog tag typewriter.
Really?
Made a little video of it. Oh, yeah, it's great. And so I go back home that day, and in the mail, my patch that I ordered from eBay showed up. So I was able to put in the glass case I have with the Purple Heart and his infantry badge, a patch, and now his dog tags that I made up with his serial number.
So that they actually have blank dog tags there?
They do. They can make them up. It costs under $8, even with the chain. So,
Wow.
yes, you can have a dog tag redone if you have the information on it. One has the contact information, and the other has his tetanus shot, blood type, his name, branch of the service, and serial number.
That's incredible.
I had to guess at the blood type because I don't know it, so I did what mine is. Type O.
There you go. And you know, the amazing thing about this is that it's better than 3D printing.
It really is, and these will last a lot longer than when I'll be around than the paper.
Absolutely.
Well, every week I like to reach out and give a blogger spotlight, and this week I'm going to give a little love to the Next Gen Genealogical Network, which I've mentioned before. Great people, and on their website, tnggn.org/blog, they're now having members of Next Gen do guest blogging. So a friend of ours, Devin Noah Lee, who we know from Texas, she's on there recently. And I'm hoping to write a piece, and hopefully you too, Fish. I mean, I think it's going to be a great way for people who don't have a blog to get out there and try one out and maybe influence them to write their own.
Nice idea.
Well, the only thing I have to mention now is if you're not an NEHGS member, remember you can use the code EXTREME and save $20 on AmericanAncestors.org. That's all I have for this week. Heading off to New York for my next conference very shortly.
You're a busy man, David. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great.
All right, and coming up next, we're going to talk to Christy Fillerup. She's a researcher with Legacy Tree Genealogist, legacytree.com. And Christy's going to start talking about a thing called the parish chest. And this is how they kept track of the poor folk over in the UK back in the day. And later in the show, we'll talk about some American poor folk records as well with Gene Belmonte from NEHGS. We'll pick it up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Hey, Genies, it is Fisher here, and I want to congratulate my friends at Legacy Tree Genealogists as they celebrate their 14th anniversary this month. Now, they are award-winning, longtime supporters of Extreme Genes and incredibly talented and effective researchers with experts in all different aspects of genealogy from all over the world and in DNA. My good friend Jessica Taylor founded Legacy Tree in 2004. And it is now one of the most respected research firms in the country. And as part of their celebration, they are offering a free custom-printed 18 by 24-inch family history chart with every genealogy research project. So if you've been thinking about hiring some true experts to help you break down a brick wall, there's never been a better time to do it. Legacy Tree Genealogists. Go to legacytree.com and learn about the special offer, which ends, by the way, on May 31st. Do not miss out. They'll take great care of you. It's Legacy Tree Genealogists.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hey, Genies, Fisher here with a shout out to our Patrons Club members at patreon.com/extremegenes. This is where friends of the show support Extreme Genes for as little as $1 a month, all the way up to the cost of a very nice burger each month. I mean, a really juicy one. You can support the show and enjoy various special Patrons Club member benefits, such as acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, special bonus podcasts from expert guests like Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, CC Moore, your genetic genealogist, great storytellers and experts on record sets from all over the world. We even offer expert advice on specific questions challenging your research. So go to patreon.com/extremegenes and get signed up. We love sharing your genealogical journey with you on our Extreme Genes Patrons Club. After all, what would you rather have? Inspiring and informative content or another greasy burger? The choice is yours. And thanks for supporting Extreme Genes. Welcome back. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. And we're talking poor folk today. And I'm excited to have from my friends over at legacytree.com genealogist, Christy Fillerup. Welcome back to Extreme Genes, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be back.
You've been blogging lately about a little thing called the parish chest. And I have had a little experience with that, but not a lot of success. But, of course, that's always going to depend on the parish, the individual, the era, all those things that you're looking for. But let's talk about what's going on there, because that's where the poor folk are hidden often. And sometimes they leave some pretty fine records.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is they're leaving records because nobody wanted them.
Right. Yes.
Every parish is trying to get rid of them. Yeah.
That's a funny thing you say that. I think it's kind of a foreign concept to us, but in particular, we're talking the UK, right?
That's right. Within the Anglican Church, yeah.
And it was just a few months ago, I stumbled upon a newspaper article, digitized newspaper article from 1818, and it was about my third great-grandfather abandoning his family. And the parish was looking for him, and they were offering a reward. Yeah. They described what he looked like, his height, his hair color, his eye color, his complexion, shape of his face, what he was wearing, all these things, and it described his occupation as well. So I knew darn well this was the exact same guy. And it also told me I'm missing a child or two that I didn't know about. But nonetheless, I haven't been able to find parish chest records relating to this guy yet. So let's talk about what this means, where you find them, and who benefits.
So a little bit of background. The interesting thing about the UK and England in particular is that they, from very, very early on, had a system where the parish would take care of its own. So if there was a widow or a family that was destitute, the parish was expected to help them at least be clothed and fed, and they may or may not be expected to provide work or something in exchange with the parish. But the parish was responsible for them. So the newspaper article you found was probably the parish where the wife was living, and they were saying, hey, we don't want to have to pay for this woman and her children. So we're going to go out and we are going to do everything we can to find this man. We're going to publish so that somewhere the parish that he's living in, they're not going to want to pay for him. So as soon as they pick up on that, they'll basically run him out of town.
Was it illegal to abandon the family? I mean, was there a law involved that he could have gotten in trouble over?
There was a law involved, yeah. It was actually officially revoked in the settlement law in 1834, but it was utilized and prosecuted much longer than that. In fact, quarter session records, you said you hadn't had a lot of success finding parish chest records for this case, but particularly since the parish seemed very motivated to find this man, there could be records once they did find him in the quarter session records, trying to get him to back pay for what they had put in on his family.
Might it suggest where he went or where his family was from, if he had rejoined his parents or something somewhere?
It could, yeah. So your parish of settlement, which is the parish that was required to pay for you if you became destitute, was initially the parish where you were born. So if this man's children were born in that parish that was looking for him, they were required. However, if he had returned to his parish of settlement, then he could stay there. They were also required to allow him to live.
Huh. He was from Scotland, but they were living down in Westminster near London. And they were at St. James, Westminster. And so that was the parish looking for him. So they gave his age, that he was from Scotland. We'd always wondered about that. There were conflicting records.
Yeah, there can be a lot of conflicting records. And these can give you information that you may not find anywhere else.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're looking for maybe a previous marriage of a widowed woman. They can give you where she was born, her maiden name. They can give you when she became widowed, because it'll tell you when the parish picked up starting to take care of her and her family. There are all kinds of little known information. They can tell you what clothing they purchased for the children, how much it cost.
Yeah, it's amazing the detail that you can find in these things. So we've got the parish chest, which is actually within the church records, right? So if, say we were going to go to the card catalog for FamilySearch.org, you might find some of those there under the specific parish, right?
That's right.
And on Find My Past would be another great source, I would think.
The Family History Library is the best source for parish chest. They only recently, within the last, 25 years or so, started going back and digitizing those.
But they're not necessarily indexed.
Oh, no, they are almost never indexed.
Right, because there's just too much stuff.
That's right.
To sort through.
They're not form-based like a parish register. So you would be going page by page through handwritten, basically just the parish vestry's notes on the business of their parish.
So if you happen to find something like I did, now you have a parish, you have a date, you know who you're looking for. That's a little easier because you're not just saying, oh, they lived there and maybe something happened. You can actually start to narrow it down to the period of time we're looking at, right?
That's right. They can be particularly useful in locating illegitimacy cases, because then you have pretty tight window of time where you can go page by page versus decades.
Would they list the names of all the children in a case like this?
They would list the names of all of the children if all of the children were being cared for by the parish. So if there were older children who were out on their own and providing for themselves, then they probably wouldn't be listed.
Right.
Only the minor children.
And so we're talking, what, over 18?
Yeah, over 18 would be the age of majority. If they were over the age of 18, but they couldn't find work, then the parish would still be caring for them. If they were born there, it would still be their parish of settlement.
And so how good has the preservation been? I mean, are there parishes that have lost their parish chest records?
There absolutely are. And the parish chest records are very spottily preserved, and they can be anywhere from the county record office to the National Archives in London. They may or may not have been filmed. So if there's no family history library microfilm, there still may be parish chest records at the county record office or even at the local parish church still.
Wow. There's your church state, right? Hard at work.
Yeah, exactly. They are a lot of work, but they can be so worth it.
Yeah, very rich in what they provide. So what percentage of them would you say have survived, and from what eras?
I would say over 50%, probably closer to 75% have survived in some capacity. That doesn't necessarily mean the full run.
Right.
Some parish chest records date to as early as the late 1500s. There were particular laws that were put into place at that time that required the parish to start taking care of their own.
So the late 1500s, and then how late did they continue that?
So the parish chest records will include not just care of the poor. They'll also have information on what they call bastardy bonds, and they'll have information on the overseers, and those will go all the way up through the early 1900s.
Wow.
And even later if you contact the parish church. Now, after 1837, the poor law unions took over all of the care of the poor. So you'd be looking at a different record set for that.
This is where we get into the Dickens time, right? Are there no prisons? Right. Yes. Are there no workhouses?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
When they started deporting poor people and they started requiring them to go to workhouses.
Wow.
And that's a whole other fun set of records.
That is. But let's talk about the bastardy bonds. And I've looked for these things before. Sure. This is, of course, has to do with the illegitimacy, and very useful records if you can find them. Where are they found? You say they're in the parish chest records. Aren't they elsewhere as well?
So officially they were part of the parish chest records. And parish chest just means everything that the parish created that was not in an official register. But they can be cataloged separately as bastardy bonds. They can be cataloged with the settlement records. So you really have to look at anything
Sure.
that might be associated.
So if you had a record, say, of an illegitimate child that you found in an Anglican, maybe a bishop's transcript or in just the Anglican register, and you knew that child was there should be a bastardy bond relating to who the father is, because they expect the man who fathered that child to pay for the child, right?
That's right. And when you're looking for those, you need to start about 6 to 9 months, depending on when the woman's condition became public knowledge. You need to start that far before the birth. Because if the woman wasn't born in that parish, if that is not the parish of her settlement, even if it's the dad's, they can't discover who the dad was. They're going to try and send her home. So that once the child's born, then that child's settlement is there. They have to take care of it.
I see.
So if they can get her out of the parish or get her to name the father, they're going to do everything they can to make that happen.
So do they do that often, try to get the father named by the woman? And does she try to hide it very often?
They do it quite a lot. In fact, they did it in almost every case where the father wasn't named. But in quite a lot of cases where the woman didn't name the father, and she may have not named him initially out of fear of retribution, they will bring her in for what's called an examination. And basically it's the parish interrogating her on who the father is. It was quite an in-depth interview for the mothers.
Wow.
And in most cases, they did provide the father's name eventually.
Okay. So what percentage would you say the fathers were revealed? And usually that would be in the bastardy bonds, right?
That's right. I would say the father is revealed in the bastardy bonds that exist probably 75 to 80% of the time.
Wow.
When she doesn't name the father, they may try and send her out of the parish if they can, or she may get sent to the quarter sessions, which were the local courts.
And they would try to work her over as well, huh?
That's right. Yeah, they just really didn't want to pay for this child.
Sure.
Illegitimate children often fell on the care of the parish.
Of course.
They were very motivated.
She's Christy Fillerup. She's with LegacyTree.com genealogists, and she's just given us a remarkable review of incredible records that you might look for over in the UK from the Anglican Church, the parish chest records. And great stuff, Christy. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing that.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And coming up next from the New England Historic Genealogical Society, I'll be talking to Jean Belmonte about more poor folk records on the way in minutes on Extreme Genes.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And welcome back. It is America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And we're talking poor people today. And if you got poor people who are your ancestors, and who doesn't, that's pretty much everybody, because we all descend from kings and we all descend from paupers. But there were certain records. And of course, we were just talking to Christy Fillerup a little bit ago here about the parish chest records over in the UK. Very interesting to find out what might be available for you there. And right now we got Jean Belmonte on from the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Jean, you are very into this as well. What got you started looking at the records of the poor?
Well, I found out when I was first researching my Liverpool, England roots, and I couldn't locate a death record for a great-great-grandfather. I was disheartened to see that he died of tuberculosis in the Brownlow Hill workhouse in Liverpool, in the infirmary. And that kind of got me started into looking into UK workhouse records and what the situation was like that would drive someone into the workhouse who was that severely ill.
Right. Was this a debtor's prison, basically?
No, it wasn't. Workhouses were set up for the poor that had nowhere else to go. They may have lost their homes. They couldn't afford to live. Oftentimes, it was considered the last resort. It was never anybody's first resort to go into the workhouse.
Sure.
And they would be required to do work to live. They would get 3 meals a day, often consisted of bread and a porridge, and sometimes water or an ale if the water wasn't potable. And they would be required to work. Women generally would be required to pick oakum out of rope to be recycled into new rope. Men often broke stones. It was very hard labor.
Wow.
Which is why it was always considered a last resort to go into the workhouse. The minute you entered, families were separated, women on one side, men on the other. Children were taken into their own wards.
Would they ever see each other?
Sometimes. Generally, they were kept separate. Some workhouses did allow families to see each other, the children to see their moms. The children were taken care of a little bit better. They also had, in their workhouse system, as time went on, they had cottage homes for children, and they were educated to a point, mostly so they could develop skills to go leave the workhouse and go out and work for themselves.
Yeah. How did anybody ever get out of this situation then?
It was voluntary. You could leave any time you wanted, basically. You entered voluntarily. You could leave voluntarily. A lot of people chose to stay because they had nowhere else to go. Many times it was the ill, as in the case of my great-great-grandfather who went into the workhouse infirmary. He died in 1890, 50, 60 years before the NHS, so there was no medical, and they were used as basically pseudo-hospitals.
Huh.
A lot of workhouse infirmaries eventually turned into today's hospitals in the UK.
That's unbelievable. So the records from these workhouses, are they good?
They are. I know from my experience using the records, because I have researched the originals in Liverpool with the archives over there. You usually get admission dates, why they were admitted, who admitted them, and when they were discharged. In the case of William Snow, he was discharged at death.
So were the almshouses of America kind of similar to these places?
Yes and no. They were a place for people to go that had nowhere else, that may not have had any family to take care of them as they aged. A lot of the almshouses were farms.
Yes.
And
I had a third-grade grandfather in New York at the Bellevue Almshouse, and it showed on the record as a farm. I didn't realize that they were literally farming.
They did farm, and some of the almshouses in the U.S. were smaller. I mean, the ones in the U.K. were huge. I know Brownlow Hill is considered one of the biggest ones in England, but they were smaller. I know there was a smaller one I've done some research in New Hampshire, but the records are gone.
Yeah.
A lot of the records don't survive.
The smaller ones.
The smaller ones.
Sure.
People know about them. They talk about them. They know they were there. You may find an admission record or in the town records someone seeking admission to an almshouse or seeking what's called, I use the British term of out relief.
Yes.
Meaning they were given money to live with someone else, which is what they did, too, in the U.S. They actually farmed out families.
Did some of this replace the churches and how they used to care for the poor, the parish churches?
The churches always had their form of charity. This was something that was done by the towns. Some of them were run by the churches. A lot of them were county-owned. In England, it started off, there were churches that ran the workhouses, and then the poor law unions came into effect, and they were the overseers of the poor, which is a term that was used in the U.S. As a matter of fact, the Boston overseers of the poor records are available on microfilm. We have them here at NEHGS.
So are there records like that in the Family History Library that you're aware of? Okay.
Yes.
And they cover mostly the United States or the U.K. or both?
To look for the records, believe it or not, I always start with the Google search.
Okay. Yes.
Google is your friend. I always start with records of, and if you know the name of the almshouse or the city that it was located in, and sometimes you'll get a pop-up, there they are. After that, it's straight to the Family History Library catalog.
All right. Now, that makes great sense.
That.
Yeah. And you got to check the area and check the time periods as well and what they may have on hand. Now, there are some things online where they have digitized it, but you have to actually be in a library or a family history center to actually see the stuff. But the overwhelming majority, that is not the case.
Yeah, I have found that to be true. And it's remarkable that of the records that do survive, you're not going to get the case histories like some people want, but what you'll get is admissions, and you know when your ancestors were there. It gives you what I always say, it's the place and time.
Yes, that's right. You can start to put that in the timeline of your ancestors' life as you put their history together, and I find that stuff extremely useful, although I do like to know what were the circumstances. Why was that person there? In the case of Bellevue, it was a hospital, it was an almshouse, it was a farm, it was a prison. They had all kinds of multiple uses, so it was always kind of difficult to tell exactly what my guy was there for, you know?
Usually I check if they died in the facility to see what the cause of death was. If it was something that may have been a long-term illness, they may have been admitted into the infirmary.
Yes. And like I think that was the case. I think that was the case with him in particular, because he'd come and go. And that's pretty common, isn't it, for these people to be in and out and in again?
Yes. A lot of women use them as pseudo-maternity hospitals, especially in the UK. They would go into the workhouse to have their babies and then leave with their children. There was actually a Secrets of the Workhouse documentary that aired in the UK, and they gave an instance of a woman going in and out of the workhouse 4 times to give birth to 4 different children.
Oh, wow. So what other countries, by the way, are into these particular poorhouses, basically?
Most had some form of poor relief. In Italy, it was the churches that did a lot with the poor relief. They did a lot with the poor and the orphans.
So you might find that in the church records in Italy.
You might find that in the church records if they did it. I'm not quite sure about other European countries because my focus has just been on the U.S. and the U.K. I know Ireland had their own workhouses and their records. Some of them are online, and some of them are only at the archives over in Ireland.
Sure. But they're getting better and better. Ireland is getting amazing with what they're getting caught, because they obviously see the tourism opportunity with far more Irish people over on this side of the pond than there.
Yes.
She's Jeannie Belmonte. She's with the New England Historic Genealogical Society in Boston. Thanks so much, Jeannie. Great stuff. It's great to know those records are available. Obviously, there's different stuff on every record set, but you got to look to find out what might be there for you. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. Great speaking to you and everybody else.
And coming up next, Tom Perry talks preservation on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, in 3 minutes. Hey, Genies, it is Fisher here, and I want to congratulate my friends at Legacy Tree Genealogists as they celebrate their 14th anniversary this month. Now, they are award-winning, longtime supporters of Extreme Genes and incredibly talented and effective researchers with experts in all different aspects of genealogy from all over the world and in DNA. My good friend Jessica Taylor founded Legacy Tree in 2004. And it is now one of the most respected research firms in the country. And as part of their celebration, they are offering a free custom-printed 18 by 24 inch family history chart with every genealogy research project. So if you've been thinking about hiring some true experts to help you break down a brick wall, there's never been a better time to do it. Legacy Tree Genealogist. Go to legacytree.com and learn about the special offer, which ends, by the way, on May 31st. Do not miss out. They'll take great care of you. It's Legacy Tree Genealogist.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hey, Genies, Fisher here with a shout out to our Patrons Club members at patreon.com/Extreme Genes. This is where friends of the show support Extreme Genes for as little as $1 a month, all the way up to the cost of a very nice burger each month. I mean, a really juicy one. You can support the show and enjoy various special Patrons Club member benefits, such as acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, special bonus podcasts from expert guests like Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, CC Moore, your genetic genealogist, great storytellers and experts on record sets from all over the world. We even offer expert advice on specific questions challenging your research. So go to patreon.com/extremegenes and get signed up. We love sharing your genealogical journey with you on our Extreme Genes Patrons Club. After all, what would you rather have? Inspiring and informative content or another greasy burger? The choice is yours. And thanks for supporting Extreme Genes. Welcome back. It is time to talk preservation with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. He is our preservation authority on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing super here. I'm still here in Mexico. We are borrowing a studio from the Lewis family. They've been really kind to us, trying to get them all set up and rock and rolling to bring our services to Mexico.
Wow. Unbelievable. All right. We've got an email from Heather Crandall. She said, Tom, I'm looking to rent or borrow a machine similar to the one in the photo. Oh, let me hold that right up to the microphone there for everybody to see. To scan in all my negatives. There are a lot. Do you guys have access to anything like this? All right. First of all, let's tell everybody what this is.
Yeah, it's a little device. If you're driving, don't climb up on your speaker to look at the photo that Scott just held up. It's a little teeny machine. The one that she actually sent us a photo of is called a Clear Click. It's pretty much a cookie cutter box. There's a lot of different people that have the exact same machine. They just put their name on it. And as we've talked about on the show before, a good place to go to research this kind of stuff and buy it is bhphoto.com, which is B&H Photo. They're in New York, and I buy a lot of stuff from them. They're really good people. However, the machine that she sent us a picture of, it's very, very inexpensive. It's less than $200. And like we've talked about before, you kind of get what you pay for. If this is your only way to preserve your negatives, if this is all you can afford, then do it, because doing something like this is better than doing nothing at all.
Sure.
The one on BH Photo is called the Wolverine Data F2D Titan, which is basically the same machine. You can run like 35 millimeter, 110, 127, 126, and even the old APS film through it. And each frame takes about 3 seconds to scan, so it's not very long. But you have to realize that this $200 box is not going to get you the really high-end stuff that we recommend. So obviously, we don't use one like that for our 35 millimeter. And I believe from the picture she sent us, she's alluding that that's what she has, is a 35 millimeter film. We do it on a real high-end scanner. And another one that we've talked about previously, that we talked about even a Roots Tech, which they were actually selling there, is an Epson V as in Victor 550. And we actually use one of those in our studio. It's an awesome machine. It has light on both the platen and on the lid, so you get a really, really good scan. Quite a bit more money. However, you're going to get such a better scan. It's going to be faster. The quality is going to be better. If it's something that's a little bit out of your price range, talk to friends, talk to family, even talk to neighbors, people maybe in your religious group or your synagogues, and say, hey, I want to do all this scanning. This machine's a little bit out of my budget. Get some people together and buy it. And if you don't want to keep it, then sell it on eBay when you're done, and you'll recover probably 70 to 80% of your cost anyway. So This is a really good way to go.
Well, you've recommended that many times over the years, Tom, for more expensive equipment. And it really does make a difference to bring in lots of other people and get that price down.
Oh, it does. And the thing is, like there's a saying out there someplace, like the excitement of a cheap price diminishes way faster than the sadness of poor quality.
Yeah. Right? You're absolutely right. It's just a matter of making sure that you put your money into those things that are most important to you.
Right. And this is something you're going to have forever. We have people come into one of our locations all the time that ask us specific questions about things. And they say, hey, this is kind of expensive. And I said, why don't you look at what your budget is for your family for Christmas? And maybe that would cover it. Because if you do something like this, you're going to have for generation to generations. You buy them a 44-inch television for $1,000. And hey, that's cool for 2 or 3 years, maybe. And then there's going to be something new out that is so much better.
Yeah, absolutely right. All right, Heather Crandall, thank you so much for the question. Hope that answers your question, and good luck with your project with the negatives. That sounds like a lot of fun. And by the way, Tom, this brings to mind a lot of questions about how to prepare negatives to get them ready for scanning and all that's involved with dust and water spots and all that. You think that's something we could talk about in the next segment?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, we'll get to that coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. Hey, we're back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, talking preservation with Tom Perry from TMCPlace.com, our preservation authority. Tom, Heather's email just in the last segment there really brought up some thoughts here about preparing negatives for scanning. First of all, how is it different scanning negatives than, say, from photographs?
Well, the biggest thing with negatives is you have this emulsion on the backside of the negative that if you get water spots, they're going to be almost impossible to clean off. And people try to do it and they end up ruining their negatives. So what I recommend is, first off, blow off the dust. And if you're going to use that canned air, remember this is compressed air. So if you move it around, it's going to freeze and it could damage your negatives. So if you can hold it very still and move the negatives in front of it, that's fine. But I recommend going to some hardware store or someplace like Sears, their catalog, and buy an air compressor, a very small compressor that you use to fill up your tires on your bicycle, because that's just taking air in one end and blowing it out the other, and they usually have good fillers on them. And that way there's no way you're going to freeze your negatives or hurt them. Just make sure you're in a very, very clean area, because if you're sitting there with this dirty box and these negatives, the air is going to go other places, get into the box, blow the dust all over, and you're basically defeating your purpose. So like we've talked about in segments before, you want to have a cleaning area, you want to have a post-cleaning area, and you want to have a sorting area.
Boy.
So you want to get these negatives in a place where they're not going to be blowing up more dust and kind of blow them off that way. If you have water spots on the non-emulsion side, which is usually the shiny side, with a Q-tip and some really distilled water, you can usually wipe those off. But if they're on the emulsion side, do not touch them. Under no circumstances touch them, because you're going to make all kinds of problems. Whereas once you have them scanned, and you have them scanned at a really high DPI, you're going to be able to see the little loop of the water stain. However, you have like digital ice, you have Photoshop. There's so many programs out there where you can erase the water spot and make it look wonderful. Whereas if you actually damage a negative, it's going to take a lot more work to try to get it right.
Boy. You know, I've never actually scanned negatives, Tom. So tell me, is there a way to actually do that with a home scanner?
With most home scanners, you can't. Whenever you're going to scan something like a negative or a slide, you want to make sure your machine has both a light in the base of it and also in the lid. And a lot of them have like mirrors in the lid, and they say, oh yeah, this is going to work great. Well, it's a cheap way to do it. You want to get one that has a light in the top and the bottom, just like we talked about in the first segment. One that I really highly, highly recommend is the Epson V as in Victor 550, which is awesome. And if you want to go to something cheaper like the Wolverine, you can always do that. But I recommend getting together, getting a group, buying it, selling it on eBay when you're done, getting your money back. But you want to go to something great. Like a lot of people get confused when you're talking about HD, full HD, 4K, Ultra HD, what all these different things are.
I'm confused right there.
Okay. Let me go over it really quick and simple. Standard high definition is, they call it 1280 by 720, which is a pixel count. So,
Okay.
hey, that's really, really good.
Yep.
But then if you go to full HD, it's like 1920 by 1080, which is how we scan our film when we're trying to for customers. And then the big thing nowadays is 4K, which is ultra high D, which is 3840 by 2160, which is huge.
Yes.
And when these first came out, they were like $3,500. And now I saw there was a 44-inch ultra high D for like $1,000 at Sam's Club. It's like, wow, these prices are coming down, which means scanners usually come down because the technology is getting better and better, and it's getting less expensive to create it.
All right. As always, great stuff. And if you have a question for Tom Perry, you can email him at asktom@tmcplace.com, or you can post it on his Twitter page at AskTomP. Thanks so much, Tom. Talk to you again next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that's all we've got this week. But you can keep up with this, of course, all throughout the week at ExtremeGenes.com. And, of course, on our Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter at ExtremeGenes. Hey, and don't forget to sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. We send it out every Monday morning with all kinds of great links to shows and stories that will be of interest to you. Talk to you next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.